And we are on air.
Hi guys, my name is Brianna, and today I'm going to be talking about Pretty Little Liars. So let's get right into the video. First of all, I'd just like to say that this show is one of my favorite shows, and I really loved the finale. It did end up with a lot of loose ends, and it didn't really fill in many of the plot holes, but I'll get to that later. But overall, I really did enjoy it, and it was a good finale. Second of all, I'd like to say that when I was watching the finale, spoiler alert, by the way, if you have not seen Pretty Little Liars, I don't know why you'd be watching this, but go watch it and then come back to this. But when I was watching the finale, I really got so excited just because I had been talking to my dad, about different theories on who AD could be. And one of the ones that I said I really believed was the one of Spencer having a twin. So I was so excited that I actually guessed it correctly. So that was pretty cool. Now, although I really loved the finale and I thought it was really well done and the acting was amazing, this video is going to be more of the questions I still have about what is going on in Rosewood, and also the things that I wish were in the episode. For instance, I wish that we got to see Emerson, Emily, and Allison get married. I really wish we saw that wedding, and I also wish we saw Spoby, Spencer, and Toby get married. I don't know, I just thought it would be really nice to just not a whole scene where we saw Ezra and Arya, just a little flash forward, a montage, if you will, of things in their lives happening at the end. That would have been nice. Another thing I wish happened is I wish Emily and Allison found out that Ren was the father of the babies. Because we found out because Alex was holding the baby and she was talking about how, oh, you have your father's eyes. So we found out, but I wish the girls would find out. Okay, now I'm going to be talking about some of the questions I had about the episode. Okay, first of all, the ending. Okay, it's obviously the exact same situation that happened to Allison, but now it's with Addison. But my question is that supposed to insinuate that Addison is going to have a half-sister named Cece, who's going to have a half-sister named Spencer, who's going to have a twin? I don't even know if that's correct. The whole show is just so confusing to me. But it's just is it supposed to insinuate that the same exact thing is going to happen to Addison that happened to Allison, and that her family's going to be as crazy as that, and that the girl said the same thing, oh, I heard a scream, she's supposed to be Spencer, everyone else was asleep? Are they saying that Addison drugged the other girls, and that the girl who said I heard a scream, she was on medication just like Spencer was? She was taking drugs to stay awake, and that's why the drugs that Addison didn't work? Is that all what it's implying, that the same exact things happening to Addison that happened to Allison? Also, does that mean the spin-off's gonna happen based on Addison and her friends? Or was that just a little nod at the idea? I don't know. And then another thing I noticed that could turn into a spin-off, I thought it was kind of interesting, was Mona having Alex and Mary Drake in the underground bunker or whatever. I don't know. It's like Mona's dollhouse now, I guess. Which is quite funny, to be honest. But that could be its whole show in itself. It's just keeping the drama going. The show could have just ended and had Alex and Mary go to jail and there could be no more drama, but it didn't. Now there's something, and the show could continue actually if they really wanted it to. But obviously they're not going to do that. But they might do a spin-off, so I don't know, maybe that's something. Another big question I had was, what was the point of the Melissa mask? They didn't even do anything with it. No one saw it except for the audience. And I don't know, I just didn't understand the purpose of it. I mean, it just really confused me. Like, why have Mona wear a mask of Melissa's face for no reason whatsoever? I don't know. It's just weird. I also want to know if there's a meaning behind the twins' names, Lily and Grace. Or like, I don't know, like where did their names come from? Who named them? Emily or Allison? I don't know. Just something I was curious about. I do have a few more questions, but instead of that, now I'm going to talk about things that I noticed about like plot holes and stuff like that. Oh, before I get into plot holes, I had one more thing I was curious about. So, in the finale, they flashbacked and showed all the times where Alex was pretending to be Spencer. But there was one time in particular which I really think it was Alex and not Spencer. And I just wish I could know for sure if it was supposed to be her or not. Okay, the night Allison went missing. A lot of things strange happened in that night. But a big thing for me is in all the scenes from that night that we've seen, Spencer isn't always wearing the same necklace. In some scenes, she's wearing one that's like a diamond or a square or something. And then in other scenes, she's wearing one that's a circle. So, like, my question is one of them Spencer and one of them is Alex? So, like, I don't know, I just was like, it just seemed like a strange thing for the necklaces to be different. Like, it's not that hard to make sure she's wearing the right necklace. So maybe it was on purpose and that was meant to be Alex? I don't know, just an idea. Another thing I was curious about is, in season 4, Grunwald, the psychic lady who pulled Allison out of the ground, she said he is watching, but he is watching, the one Allison fears the most. The one Allison fears the most is A. We already know that. But the thing that's strange to me is Mona was A, Cece was A, Alex is AD. There's no guy there. Like, there's no guy along any of the lines. I mean, in theory, Grunwald could have been talking about Ezra because that's when it was revealed that he was stalking them to write a book. But he claims he was, like, not going to do anything to them. He was just going to write a book. He would, like, be harmless in theory. So why would she be saying that, like, the one Allison fears the most? That doesn't make sense to me. So, I don't know. I mean, I was thinking maybe it could be Ren, but I'm not sure. Because, I mean, Ren wasn't AD. Ren was just dating Alex. I don't know, it's quite strange to me. So I just kind of wish I could get that cleared up. Who was the he that Grunwald was referring to? This is another thing that could be explained through the use of Ren, but I'm not quite sure, so I just wanted to put my thought out there and see if anybody has any other explanations, because I kind of doubt it, because I've always thought Ren was not a real doctor and he was a fraud, because, like, I don't know, he just didn't seem trustworthy. But, like, A knew a lot of medical information. Like, A put chips in them and like, I don't know, just did a lot of things to them that you would need medical information to know how to do. I can't remember off the top of my head, but like, there's just been a few things that A's done that you like need medical history to know how to do. And Mona, Cece, and Alex, none of them have medical history. Like, Mona was in high school when she was A, and Cece didn't have a job or anything. She just like was from an insane asylum, and Alex was a bartender. I highly doubt that she'd have any medical history. That's where I could say it could be explained by Ren, because he was a doctor, but I don't know. So let me know what you think. And then I also want to know how A got money. Like, I understand how, okay, Alex, the underground bunker Alex built to hold Spencer and Ezra in, I understand that Alex got the money to build that from Cece. Cece left money to Alex when she died. And I know Mona didn't really have any things that she spent a lot of money on, so she's not even in this question. But Cece built a whole dollhouse for the girls, and like a lot of very expensive things going on. And I know that she had 51% of the Karasimi group, but like, where did she get all this money from? Like, nobody else in the family is rich, and like, I don't know, I just don't understand where her connection is that gets her all this money, which then leads to Alex getting all this money. It just doesn't make sense to me. So if any of you have an explanation, please let me know. Okay, now the rest of these plot holes aren't exactly tied to the finale, it's just the show in general, but I waited till now to talk about them because I wasn't sure if the finale would explain any of these, but it hasn't, so I'm gonna talk about some other things. Okay, this one's small and stupid and probably doesn't matter, and it was probably just a mistake on the writer's part, and that's completely fine if it is. I understand everybody makes mistakes. I was just curious if it wasn't a mistake and there wasn't a reason for it, and maybe we could find out. So in season 2, it's before Halloween, and the girls are all getting ready to go. And they look out the window, and there's a guy wearing a costume watching them. And so they go, someone's watching, and they all rush to the window. And they all see the guy in the mask, except for Allison. She doesn't walk to the window until he's gone, so she never sees what the costume looks like. Yet later in the episode, she correctly points out that the guy who kidnapped her when she was testing the girls to see if they were trustworthy, he was wearing the same costume. How would she be able to correctly identify that if she never saw the guy who was wearing the costume in the first part? Just a thought. Then another thing that happened in season 2 was when Allie came back to visit the girls. I believe it was Emily, and Emily asked her if she knew who A was, and Allison said yes, but she wouldn't tell. She said that it wouldn't help anything, but it obviously would help because the girls were being tortured by A as well. My question is, why wouldn't Allison tell? Like, obviously she would want to help her friends unless she had something to hide, so what was going on with that? I don't know. Then in season 3, the episode when the girls discover the masks of Allison's face. The guy who works there told them that Allie had the masks made because she said she wanted all her friends to wear them and look like her. Yet, what's strange about that? He said Allie, the girl whose face it was. There's no other person who has the exact same face as Allison, so he had to have been telling the truth, because how else would he get the mold for Allison's face? Allison came to him asking for her friends, yet none of her friends ever ended up wearing one of those masks. The only people who ever wore those masks were people from the A-Team. So why is it that Allison had them made and yet the A-Team is wearing them? I'm starting to have a hunch that maybe Allison was part of the A-Team at some point. I don't know. Just an idea. Because then again, I'm not sure when this is, but it's after Ezra was confronted about his lair and the book he was writing. Allie goes to him asking for all the information that he had on the girls. And she says she needs it for her own safety. But the thing is, during the time that she's confronting Ezra, the girls all thought that Shauna was A and Shauna was dead. So they were all under the assumption that A was dead. So why was Allie so concerned about her safety? Or maybe she wasn't concerned about her safety at all and she just thought maybe Ezra knew something about her. So she didn't want the girls to find out. I don't know. That's also just an idea. Another thing that has to do with Allison is one time she's sitting on her bed. This is season 5, by the way. She's sitting on her bed and she's writing a message to Emily. It says, "Can you call me back, please?" And she signs it -A. She looks at it for a second, sighs as if she's changing her mind, and then types Allison. why would she even consider writing -A unless she was A or affiliated with A? It just doesn't make sense to me why she would do that. I don't know. Another thing is, in season 2, Spencer is telling the other girls about an ad that she saw that Allison took out to reach out to AD anonymously. Well, it was A back then. It was when Cece was A. But the funny thing was, Allison signed her name as AD. Why would she sign her name as AD when she didn't, it's not like that was a thing that she called herself. Maybe that was the start of AD and Allison was helping out. Just a theory, because another time she did also refer to herself as AD. Emily was sending Allie some money. This was in season 4, and instead of Allison De Laurentiis, it was written as AD Incorporated. Another thing that might be meaningless, but is kind of interesting, is in season 1, A sent a message to the girls that said A is for Allison, not amateur. Okay, now this is something that doesn't really matter either. It's just something I'm curious about because we never did find out. When Ezra and Arya are confronted by Noel, because Noel finds out that Arya and Ezra are together, he threatens them, but then is later suspended because they found answers to a midterm he was cheating on in his locker. We never did find out who planted those midterms in his locker. So my theory is, if it was A, why was A trying to help them? A doesn't try to help people. Yet, as we see time go by, A makes an effort to break up every single couple on the show except Arya and Ezra. The biggest thing that doesn't make sense about that is A is always looking for criminal activity throughout the girls to try and get them busted and in trouble or sent to jail. So why would A not jump on the biggest opportunity early on to bust the girls? She could have easily just gone to the cops and Ezra would be in jail and Arya's secret would be out there. So why did A hold back on that but not on anything else? Just doesn't make sense to me. Another thing is Ezra walks in on a bunch of guys, including this one guy, Connor, talking badly to Arya. And then later on, Connor's car is vandalized. It was blamed off on Mike, but he got away with it because he didn't do it. We never did find out, though, who actually did it. So I was just wondering if it was A or Ezra, and if it was A, why was A helping Arya? Just, once again, it doesn't make sense. More on Ezra is when the girls discover his lair, right? I mean, I guess it makes sense. He's writing a book on them. He has a lair with information about them. Okay, one thing that doesn't make sense to me is while they were in the lair, they found paperwork that stated that there was 2 payments made to Cece Drake. Now, why would Ezra be paying off Cece Drake unless he was somehow affiliated with A? And even if he was affiliated with A, why Cece was found to be A? So why would he pay Cece? Wouldn't Cece pay him for some information? And also, Ezra had claimed to know nothing about A or who A was, and that he was just writing a book. So why was he paying Cece? It was never brought up again, and the girls just easily trusted Ezra when he said that he was just writing a book. So whatever did happen with that, why did he pay Cece? It just doesn't make sense. Another thing is, Ezra was always telling Arya that he walked away from his parents' money because he didn't want their money and he wanted to do things on his own. Yet, one time he's talking to Hannah and he tells her, well, she's confiding in him because she's upset. And to make her feel better, he tells her about his personal life. And he says he was cut off from his family, and that it was really hard for him because he was so dependent on them. So why is he giving mixed signals? Maybe he's lying and he's getting his stories mixed up? But then once again, if he really did deny his parents money or get cut off, either way, that means he's broke. He's always telling Arya he's broke. He has ramen in his house and cheap foods. So he doesn't have a lot of money. But then how is it he has the money to buy all this equipment to be tracking their alarm systems and stuff just to write a book? He could have easily written a book without that stuff. I mean, we saw A herself, Mona, do all this stuff to the girls with like little to no expensive equipment. Yet Ezra had a whole big setup just to write a book. And where was he getting that money from? Ezra was not supposed to have any money. He was supposed to be broke. So I don't know, I just wonder where it all came from. Also Ezra related, because I often wonder if it was Ezra or A or what, because it didn't come along with any A letters or information. Arya was dating or had a fling with a boy named Jake. Once Arya stops talking to this boy, he's boxing and he kicks and hurts his foot, and then he looks to discover knives stuck in the boxing bag. Arya never does find out that this happened, and there was no A note or anything, so it's not like A did it to get to the girls or anything. Like, it just doesn't make sense why A would do that. But also, that's not supposed to be in Ezra's character to do something like that. So I just would like to know who put those knives there. Why did that ever happen? It just doesn't make sense. I'd also like to know, there was a time in season 5 when Arya volunteered at Radley Sanitarium. While she was there, someone else there, Eddie Lamb, recognized her. She swore she didn't know him, but he was pretty persistent in saying that he knew exactly who she was, he just couldn't put his finger on it. Then, later on, when Arya's getting out of her car, he says something to her about how she's staying there pretty late and blah blah blah, and then as she's driving away, Eddie Lamb picks up his phone, calls someone, and says, "Is this Ezra Fitz?" And then we never hear from him again. We never get to know where he recognized Arya from. We never get to know what he was talking about with Ezra on the phone. We never get to know how he knew Ezra or had his number or anything. So I would just like more answers on that as well. Unrelated and very random, I do want to know whatever happened when all the Rosewood moms got trapped in the basement. The finale made a little nod to it with the moms all talking about it, but they never did say how they got out of the basement. They just laughed about it. So how did they get out of the basement? I'm dying to know. This is a big one. Supposedly, Cece Drake was in Radley Sanitarium at the same time Mona was. But then my question is, Ren was writing visitor's passes for Cece, but why would Cece need a visitor's pass if she was in Radley? I feel like we're getting mixed signals from the show. Is she in Radley or is she not? And if she was getting a visitor's pass, it wouldn't say Cece Drake on it. It would say Charlotte De Laurentiis. So why was Ren writing her fake visitor's passes? Or did he make up some fake visitor's passes so Spencer would see them and it was like planted evidence? I don't know. But I wish that we could find out. In the dollhouse. While they're in the dollhouse, when they are making a run for it, while they're in the dollhouse, Spencer finds a vault with all of Charles's prized possessions. Now, Charles comes up behind Spencer and Spencer says, "Charles, is that you?" And she turns around. In this scene, we can clearly see that Charles is taller than Spencer. Now my question is, who was dressed as Charles in the dollhouse? Because Mona is shorter than Spencer. Cece is shorter than Spencer. Alex is the same height as Spencer, whereas Charles was clearly taller So who was in the Charles costume? Another question I have about Cece. There's a scene where we're looking at, I believe, Melissa's yearbook. And we see Cece in the yearbook. First of all, her name's in there as Cece Drake. Her name legally is not Cece Drake, it's Charlotte De Laurentiis. So her name would not be on any sort of paperwork or legal documents or anything through a school or government facility. So, first of all, why was her name in there as Cece Drake when that's not her name? Second of all, Cece never went to Rosewood High School. So, how was she in the yearbook at all? Then we also see in that yearbook that she was prom queen. How are you prom queen at a school you don't even go to? Just doesn't make sense to me. Okay, now I want to talk about Toby's mom, because that whole situation just doesn't make sense to me. Supposedly, well, not supposedly, we saw it happen. Bethany pushed Marion off the roof of the Radley when her and Charles were children. Cece and Bethany are supposed to be a few years older than Allison and her friends and Toby and all of them. So why is it that we see Marion very much alive and well years later in a scene where Toby is a teenager when she supposedly died when Charles was a child? It's like, what, did she come back from the dead? Like, I don't get it. What happened? And then another thing that doesn't make sense about the whole situation is that supposedly Wilden was paid off to make it look like a suicide. But what doesn't make sense about that is we know it to be that Wilden was in school with Melissa. So we know that he wouldn't have been old enough to be a police officer. So how could he have possibly been in charge of that case? It just doesn't make sense. Now I have a few things I want to talk about the day Allie went missing. First of all, I get how Cece and Allison ended up wearing the same outfit. But how did Bethany end up wearing the same exact thing? And not only wearing the same exact thing, but having Allison's bracelet on when she got buried. That just doesn't make sense to me. It was never showed how Bethany ended up wearing that same thing. So can we have that explained to us, please? Along with that, we see Allie, after she's buried, we see Grunwald pulling her out of the ground to save her. But Grunwald didn't dig her out, she pulled her out. So all the dirt is still in that hole. Yet in a later scene, we see Melissa push Bethany into a hole and dig her. But how is there a big hole for Bethany to get buried in if it was filled with dirt from Allison being buried? I just don't understand how it's possible that the hole just magically emptied out. Just doesn't make sense. I'm sure there's plenty of more theories and plot holes and misinformation in the show, but that's all I'm going to talk about today. Before I end this video, just want to say that I'm in no way dissing the show or its writers or anything like that. This is one of my favorite shows and I love it so much. I'm just simply asking for some answers. And some things might just be there was a mistake, and that's completely fine, and I understand the writers making mistakes sometimes. But for the rare chance that there are some answers, here are my questions, and maybe I could get some answers. But that's it for today's video. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one.